especially toward living things with tentacles. I had only felt sorry for it on my way home from school, so I poured out the half bottle of water I had left for a soft-bodied octopus that was nearly dried out. That night, at midnight, an octopus girl 100 times more beautiful than our school's prettiest girl secretly climbed onto my bed. With 8 cold, slick, dark purple tentacles, she wrapped me tightly from ankles to wrist. I was frozen with terror, afraid to even breathe. I could only let her bury her beautiful face in my school uniform, like a puppy desperate for reassurance, frantically and greedily inhaling my scent, her body trembling nonstop. That monstrous aura, beyond human understanding, scared me unconscious. When I woke the next morning, the bed was empty. I thought it had been nothing but an absurd nightmare. But when I got to school, Zhang Meng, the school bully who always cornered me in the boys' restroom for my allowance, was wildly slapping his own face, while crying and kowtowing before me. "Brother Zhao, please, make that tentacled ghost woman from last night spare me." And my homeroom teacher, who usually would not even look at me, stood nearby, her legs shaking in terror, her face ashen, too afraid to raise her head. My head began to buzz. Cold sweat prickled over my entire body. A horrifying thought surged into my mind. It had not been a dream. That monster was still in my home. Terrified, I turned and ran home. The moment I pushed open my apartment door, the beautiful girl from last night was kneeling on the floor, her face drenched in tears. Seeing the terror on my face, the octopus girl lunged at me, her soft tentacles coiled tightly around my waist, while she humbly clutched my pant leg, looking up and pleading through tears. "Master, if anyone out there dares bully you, I will make them die. Please, do not be afraid of me. Do not abandon me. Can I be only your pet for the rest of my life?" Looking at the beautiful, tear-streaked girl before me, I stood frozen. I even unconsciously softened my breathing. The lights were off. Only pale, washed-out moonlight streamed through the window, falling across her unrealistically beautiful face. Her features were exquisitely delicate. Her skin was pale as white wax congealed in the midnight cold. If not for the 8 tentacles slowly writhing behind her in the darkness, their dark purple surfaces gleaming with an eerie chill, she would have looked like a pure, untainted saint. Yet that boneless, fragile-looking body radiated a pressure that chilled me to the marrow. "Master, why are you not saying anything? Do you find me disgusting?" When I did not respond for a long time, tears dripped heavily from her eyes. The tentacles around my waist tightened violently in her extreme distress, squeezing until I could barely breathe. "No." I forced the word from my throat. With difficulty, I raised a hand and cautiously placed it on her soft long hair. I gently stroked it. "I do not hate you." It felt unexpectedly wonderful, like the finest silk, with a faint, strange fragrance like a cold spring in the deep sea. "Really?" Almost the instant I finished speaking, the octopus girl snapped her head up. Her pure black eyes, once filled with despair, instantly lit with an eerie, bewitching purple glow. The 8 tentacles behind her spread like a peacock's tail, trembling excitedly through the air. "Master does not hate me. Master is willing to keep me." She cheered like a puppy given a bone, jumping for joy. Then, with a slight sway, she gently lowered my whole body back to the floor. My feet touched down, but I could barely stand. I clung to the shoe cabinet, gasping for air. Meanwhile, she obediently knelt by my feet. She expertly extended the tentacles, curling them around the slippers I had left nearby, and carefully placed them at my feet. At the same time, her other tentacles had already snapped on the living room lights. 2 more tentacles somehow produced a clean rag and frantically scrubbed the floor where I had left footprints. The entire process was seamless. It took barely 3 seconds. Watching a stunning girl more beautiful than any celebrity use all 8 tentacles to do housework like a spinning top, the absurd contrast left my mind in chaos. "What is your name?" I swallowed. Then I asked cautiously. As the girl neatly arranged the sofa cushions with her tentacles, she tilted her head at me. Her eyes were clear and utterly clueless. "A name? I do not have one. Back in the sea, my companions called me Little 8. But if Master likes, you can give me any name. You can call me Puppy or Pawpad, as long as it makes Master happy. Then I will call you Xiaoxi." My mouth twitched. Calling her Little 8 would have felt far too jarring. "Xiaoxi. I have a name now. I am Master Xiaoxi." She was so happy she nearly floated away. A sickly flush colored her lovely face. The adoration and obsession in her eyes nearly overflowed. I rubbed my temples, forcing myself to calm down. I pulled over a chair and sat down, keeping what I thought was a safe distance from her. Xiaoxi, tell me, were you behind what happened to Zhang Meng and the homeroom teacher at school today? At the mention of those two, her sweet face instantly turned feral and icy. They deserved it. Her voice remained soft and sweet, but her words made my skin crawl. After I wrapped Master up until you fainted last night, I smelled the foul stench of someone named Zhang Meng lingering on Master's school uniform. My tentacles told me that he cornered Master in an alley yesterday afternoon and made you cry. He even stole 30 yuan from you. Master smells so wonderful, yet that trash dared to taint your scent. She lowered her head, nervously twisting the hem of the oversized t-shirt I had tossed by the bed yesterday, like a child who had done something wrong. Master, I am sorry. Did I do something wrong? I should not have dealt with that trash without permission. Last night, I followed his scent to his house. I released the deep-sea parasites from my suckers inside. They crawled into his ears and nostrils, and merely played hide-and-seek with him for half the night. I truly did not kill him. This morning, he begged me. He said that if he could come apologize to Master, I should spare him. That is why I let him return to school. Into his ears and nostrils, goosebumps erupted all over me. No wonder Zhang Meng looked like a madman who had seen hell. What about the homeroom teacher? I asked shakily. That old woman was even worse. Obsessive fury flickered in the octopus girl's pure black eyes. She clearly saw that trash-bullying Master, but deliberately turned away and pretended not to see. So I followed her scent to her office. I took dead rats from the sewer and stuffed them into her desk drawer. Then I hung her upside down by the ankles with my tentacles, leaving her outside a fourth-floor window in the cold wind for half the night. If she dares roll her eyes at Master again, tomorrow I will throw her straight off the building. Splat, she will break apart. I stared in shock at the harmless-looking girl before me. She did not understand human laws at all. Her mind contained only the most primitive logic of a monster. To tear apart, through sheer physical terror, anyone who made Master unhappy. That violently extreme urge to protect me made me, who had been pushed around at school for so long, feel an uncontrollable, twisted thrill rise within me. But an even deeper fear followed. Right now, she saw me as her only Master. But if one day I went against her wishes, or she discovered that I was only an ordinary high school student, would she send those parasites crawling into my stomach too? Master, are you afraid of me? She sharply caught that flicker of fear in my eyes. Her relaxed tentacles instantly stiffened in midair. The next second, the light in her eyes went out. Thud. Once again, she dropped to her knees without a shred of dignity. Her small body shook violently. I am sorry. I am a monster. I do not deserve to stay by Master's side. If Master thinks I am dangerous, I will cut off all my tentacles right now. Just do not drive me away, Master. Please do not abandon me. As she spoke, she really raised one tentacle, a black barbed hook shot from its tip. She viciously aimed it at her own throat. Stop! I cried out in terror. Instinctively, I rushed over and grabbed the tentacle she was using to hurt herself. The instant it touched my hand, it was ice cold. Its suckers gently wriggled in my palm from her violent emotional turmoil, sending a strange, tingling sensation through me. Xiaoxi froze. She blankly stared at my hand gripping her tentacle. Do not do anything rash. I took a deep breath. I am not afraid of you, and I do not think you are disgusting. But from now on, without my permission, you must never use this power carelessly outside. And do not casually talk about dying or cutting things off. Do you understand? Xiaoxi's breathing quickened. She stared fixedly at the hand holding her tentacle. The flush on her face visibly spread to her ears. Being stopped and disciplined by Master seemed to send her into a state of mental ecstasy. I understand. As long as it is Master's command, Xiaoxi will obey it completely. Absolutely. She buried her face in my palm, as though she were drawing in the scant warmth of my palm, and let out a soft, almost whispered pant. That night, I gave in. I made up the sofa in the living room and let her rest there. After all, it was just a boy and a girl alone, and she was a soft-bodied monster who could lose control at any moment. But, in the middle of the night, while half asleep, I suddenly found it hard to breathe. It felt as though a massive sponge lay on my chest, heavy and cold, yet strangely soft. I snapped my eyes open. The room was pitch black. Only the half-empty bottle of water on my nightstand, left over from earlier that day, glinted coldly in the moonlight. And beside my bed, Xiaoxi lay across my chest in a horribly twisted yet graceful pose. At some point, her 8 tentacles had silently slipped beneath my covers. From my ankles, my calves, my knees, they had densely coiled their way upward, finally pinning both my hands firmly at my sides. Her breathtakingly beautiful face was less than 3 centimeters from mine. Her eyes were closed. Her long lashes trembled faintly. Her delicate straight nose pressed against my neck, like a small beast desperate for security. She greedily and frantically breathed in my scent. Xiaoxi. Just as I tried to stop her, an icy tentacle suddenly crept up my neck. It pressed against my lips, gentle yet impossible to refuse. Xiaoxi slowly opened her eyes. In those morbid eyes, glowing pure violet in the darkness, the daytime humility and innocence were gone. Only a suffocatingly intense possessiveness remained. Shh, master. It is late. Time to sleep. She leaned close to my ear, whispering in a sweet, cloying voice. Back in the sea, prey caught in my coils could never, ever escape. So master will stay here forever too. And look only at Xiaoxi. All right. I endured the entire night without sleep. Not until dawn did that near strangling sensation finally fade. I shot upright, gasping for air. The back of my pajamas was soaked through. Master. Good morning. Xiaoxi knelt properly beside the bed, holding a cup of warm water. Sunlight fell across her pale, glowing face. She looked so obedient it made my heart ache. She was nothing like the terrifying monster from last night. But I knew full well, if I did not set rules while she was obedient during the day, sooner or later, I would end up dead. I had to put on a tough front. Put the water down. Xiaoxi obediently did as told. The 8 purple tentacles behind her swayed in the air. I swallowed hard and fixed my eyes on her. Xiaoxi, if you are staying here, you have to listen to me. First, you are absolutely forbidden from hurting people without cause. Second, hide all those tentacles behind you. If anyone sees those monstrous things, we are both done for. The smile vanished from Xiaoxi's face at once. She glanced at the tentacles behind her. Her eyes reddened. Tears began falling in heavy drops. Master, do you think they are ugly? If I cut them off, I cannot protect Master anymore. Who told you to cut them off? I told you to pull them back into your body. I shouted anxiously. Master's words. Xiaoxi obeys. The moment she finished speaking, a teeth-grinding crack of splintering bone suddenly rang out. My eyes nearly popped out of my head. Those 8 thick, barbed tentacles were forcing their way into her pale back. Her skin and flesh bulged into horrifying lumps, with dull, what sounds of flesh grinding together. Xiaoxi trembled all over in pain. Cold sweat, mixed with streaks of blood, ran down her neck. Yet she bit her lip hard and stared at me, terrified I would send her away. At last, there was a muffled pop. All the tentacles were forced back into her back, leaving several purplish, bloody marks. Xiaoxi collapsed onto the tile floor like a limp puddle, panting from the pain. My scalp tingled. My heart suddenly clenched. Truthfully, I was a coward. I would yelp just stepping on a cockroach. Seeing a breathtakingly beautiful girl just because of one thing I said. Torture herself until she was covered in blood. What normal person could bear that? I hurried to the wardrobe, pulled out a school uniform jacket, and wrapped it around her. Enough. Do not bleed all over the floor. I said gruffly. Get up and turn around. I did not dare look into her eyes, hiding my fear and guilt. If it hurts, endure it. That is what you get for not being human. I thought I sounded tough, but I did not notice that when that uniform, carrying my warmth and scent, was wrapped around Xiaoxi, she did not feel wronged at all. Instead, her eyes lit up strangely. In that monster mind of hers, not only had I not driven her away, I had even given her clothes carrying my scent to wear. I had even panicked because I could not bear to see her bleed. To her, that was the same as declaring that she belonged to me. It does not hurt. Xiaoxi buried her face deep in the collar of the uniform. She greedily inhaled its scent. Her voice was soft as cotton, yet carried an unsettling excitement. Master gave me clothes to wear. From now on, Xiaoxi will only wear Master's clothes. Xiaoxi belongs to Master. Her small hand reached out and tightly grabbed my pant leg. Looking at the hand clutching me, cold sweat broke out across my back again. I suddenly realized that my awkward mix of fear and helpless tenderness seemed to make the way she looked at me even more unhinged than last night. Go wash your face now. My heart raced uneasily. I nervously yanked my pant leg free and quickly changed clothes. I will take you to the supermarket for some necessities. Watching her unsteady figure head for the bathroom, my heart pounded with dread. This was not keeping a pet. It was like taking a bomb that could explode at any moment out shopping. All because I poured some water on an octopus that was nearly dried out. That night, she turned into an octopus girl, and she refused to leave my place. So, I set rules for her. First, never hurt people without cause. Second, hide all the tentacles behind your back. Without another word, she endured the agony and pulled her tentacles back into her back. Then I planned to buy her some women's clothes and daily necessities. But I never imagined that taking Xiaoxi outside was the most reckless decision I had ever made. When we passed the seafood section in the supermarket, a black fish in one of the tanks blew a bubble. Its eye met Xiaoxi's through the glass. That single glance caused trouble. The clear pupils of Xiaoxi's eyes suddenly gleamed with a chilling trace of purple. Master. She turned and looked at me with solemn sincerity. That lower life form just looked directly at you. Was it challenging your authority? Before I could react, she said something even more shocking. Xiaoxi can teach it a proper lesson for you, so it never dares stare carelessly again. Should I feed it to you? I guarantee it will be fresh. Her voice was sweet and soft, but her words sent a chill down my spine. Beside us, a middle-aged woman was about to scoop up a fish with a net. Her hand suddenly jerked, and with a splash, the net fell into the tank. She recoiled to steps, staring at Xiaoxi like she was insane. Eat it. Are you out of your mind? I clamped a hand over her mouth, which was still spouting terrifying words. Then I grabbed a lollipop from the snack shelf and shoved it into her mouth. Keep it in your mouth. Do not take it out without my permission. And do not say a word. I glared at her fiercely. Xiaoxi shrank her neck after I yelled at her. She obediently sucked on the red lollipop. Her cheek puffed out in a small bulge. The strawberry sweetness seemed to make her temporarily forget her plan to twist off someone's head. Then I dragged her to the women's clothing section on the third floor. But as we browsed a rack of dresses, hey, gorgeous. Wearing rags like that is a complete waste of your beauty. A greasy rich kid with slick back hair and overpowering cologne swaggered over. The gold watch on his wrist practically blinded me. He treated me, dressed like a broke student, as if I were invisible. The way he stared at Xiaoxi was like a wolf eyeing an exquisite piece of meat. He pulled out the latest phone and held it out to her, flashing a set of white teeth. The luxury boutique upstairs just got new arrivals. Add me on WeChat. I will cover everything today. The air went completely dead silent. Xiaoxi stopped sucking her lollipop. She did not even look at his phone. Slowly, she raised her head. Her pitch-black eyes were visibly being swallowed by a violently savage purple glow. In her monster mind, there was no concept of being hit on. She knew only one thing. This foul-smelling inferior male dared look at Master's property with those disgusting eyes. He even dared interrupt her while she was serving Master. Drip? A drop of thick, clear fluid fell from the hem of Xiaoxi's school uniform and struck the tile. A wisp of white smoke instantly rose. Oh, damn. That was a sign her tentacles were secreting venom and extreme rage. The rich kid had one foot in the grave and did not even know it. Yet he still tried to touch Xiaoxi's shoulder. Why are you not saying anything? Is that broke student beside you making you shy? Shut up. My blood ran cold. With the greatest burst of strength I had ever summoned, I seized Xiaoxi's wrist in a death grip. Before that pig's hand could touch her, I yanked her into the nearby private fitting room and threw open its door. With a bang, I locked it from inside. The instant the lock clicked, the fitting room, barely to square meters, became hell. Reap, the old school uniform covering Xiaoxi, was shredded by a terrifying force swelling from within. 8 enormous, semi-transparent pink-purple, jelly-like tentacles burst from her body. Like frenzied predators from the deep, they thrashed wildly through the cramped space. Teach him a lesson. He must pay for this. Xiaoxi spat out her candy. Her exquisitely beautiful face twisted with murderous intent. Her purple eyes seemed to spit fire. He dared ignore Master. I will make sure he never reaches for anyone again. She had gone mad. To slick, ice-cold pink-purple tentacles slithered up the wall like venomous snakes. They were about to slip through the door crack and a gap by the ceiling. To teach the man outside a lesson he would never forget, and that would bring serious trouble into our lives. Stop right now. I spread my arms and wrapped them tightly around her slender, yet terrifyingly powerful waist. Using all my strength, I pinned her against the fitting mirror behind her. The rich kid outside was enraged by the slammed door. He began pounding on it wildly. You little punk, are you insane? Open the door, now, or I am calling the police. Those barking insults sent Xiaoxi even further out of control. Do not disturb Master. A viper like hiss came from her throat. An unbearably cold tentacle instantly coiled around my neck. That slickness unique to cold-blooded creatures raised goosebumps all over my body. Master, let me go. She panted heavily against my ear, her voice carrying a disturbingly wounded note. He is filthy. He will dirty you, master. Please let me eat him. The fitting room was too small. In our desperate struggle, our bodies were pressed tightly together. I could clearly feel her 8 huge jelly-like tentacles climbing up my thighs and the sides of my waist. They tightly entwined my limbs. On one side was the rich kid pounding on the door. On the other was a monster ready to tear someone apart. I do not know where I found the nerve, but I stared hard into her purple slit pupils, my nose nearly touching hers, and gritted out the most commanding words of my life. You are not going. You are not even allowed to look at him. You are my pet. Without my permission, you are not allowed to kill anyone. He dared look at you. Fine, I will go out and beat him up myself. But you will not touch him. Do you understand? The moment I finished yelling, a miracle happened. The 8 massive tentacles that had been ready to rip the world apart a moment ago suddenly seemed to hit pause. They froze in midair all at once. Xiaoxi's eyes widened. The violent fury in them slowly melted away. The next second, those aggressive tentacles suddenly went limp. As though drained of strength, they drooped weakly down. Then, in an incredibly gentle, almost shamelessly fawning manner, they curled around my wrist and waist again. There was no killing intent, only intensely intimate caresses. The way she looked at me changed completely. Her world-destroying bloodlust became fervor, an obsession overflowing with immense happiness. In her monster logic, I had not held her back to save anyone. It was because I was jealous. Because, as her master, I was declaring to every male my absolute claim over her. Master. Her soft tongue gently licked the palm I had used to cover her mouth. The wet heat shot through my spine like an electric current, making me shudder violently. The pounding outside stopped. The rich kid must have found the silence inside unsettling. Creeped out, he muttered, freaks, and his footsteps gradually faded away. The crisis was over. All strength left my body. I slid down the door to the floor like a heap of mud. My back was soaked in cold sweat. Xiaoxi obediently knelt beside me. The 8 huge, semi-transparent pink-purple tentacles behind her were as docile as a big dog's tail now, coiled quietly at her side. She did not care about her shredded clothes. Like a kitten given the greatest reward, she leaped into my arms without hesitation, pressing her flushed cheek tightly to my chest, greedily listening to my frantic heartbeat. Master just said Xiaoxi belongs to Master. She looked up. Her face was impossibly beautiful, and her voice was syrupy sweet. Xiaoxi is so happy. Xiaoxi can endure it, because Master wants me all to himself. As long as Master keeps holding me tight like before, and hides me away, Xiaoxi can spare all that trash outside. I looked down at the deep-sea monster in my arms, whom I had somehow forced into submission, and my heart sank to the bottom. To hide her identity, I seemed to have just accidentally pressed some dangerous obsessive switch in her mind. The way she looked at me now was no longer merely how she looked at her master. She plainly wanted to chew me to pieces, swallow me whole, and become one with me forever. This one is the biggest. It is for Master. The octopus girl held a slippery oyster to my lips. Because, in the eyes of a deep-sea octopus girl, the finest prey must be offered to the clan's ruler. But raw meat instinctively repulsed me. Yet in Xiaoxi's extreme way of thinking, Master rejecting her meant she was useless trash, meant she did not deserve to live in this world, and meant she had to kill herself in atonement. That terrified me senseless. To keep her from killing herself, I swallowed the raw oyster despite myself. That instantly filled Xiaoxi with overwhelming happiness. Master ate my food, so Master belongs completely to me now. Just moments earlier, after buying Xiaoxi clothes at the supermarket, we had returned to the apartment. Hungry, I planned to fry a couple of sausages for a quick meal. But the moment I turned on the gas stove and flames burst out, Xiaoxi screamed, "Master, get away!" Before I could react, Xiaoxi rushed into the kitchen like a mother hen protecting her chicks, throwing herself between me and the stove. Her pale little face was filled with terror. The tentacles snapped out behind her, actually trying to slap the flame out with her own body. What the hell? That is fire. Are you trying to get yourself killed? I was scared out of my mind. I grabbed her around the waist from behind and yanked her sharply backward. With my other hand, I quickly shut off the gas. The flames went out. Let me go, Master. That glowing thing will bite you. In the ocean, anything hot burns flesh black. Xiaoxi struggled frantically in my arms. Her tentacles still flailed in the air, defending against that metal stove. I held her tightly around the waist, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. I felt like I was looking after a clueless 3-year-old. That is called a gas stove. I made that fire myself, to heat food. Humans do not eat raw meat. Understand. The moment Xiaoxi heard I had made it, she went quiet. She blinked. Her tentacles drooped sadly too, and she lowered her head as if she had done something wrong. But burnt things are dead garbage. Eating them will make you sick. I sighed. I took a peeled sausage from the cutting board and held it to her lips. Here, this is human food. Try it. Xiaoxi leaned closer and gave it a light sniff. The next second, she jerked backward. Her whole face scrunched up. She waved her hands in disgust. She almost gagged. This thing has no life. It reeks of ash and preservatives. It smells awful. Seeing how disgusted she was by the sausage, I finally faced reality. This little princess really was a giant deep-sea octopus. Her stomach could only digest fresh, living seafood. If I could not feed her enough, who knew whether she might swallow my landlord's pet chihuahua alive in the middle of the night? All right. Your Highness has picky tastes. I sighed. Then I remembered the foam cooler still on the balcony. Last night, as the night market was closing, I had scored a huge bag of live prawns at a bargain. There were several large oysters mixed in too. I had planned to give them a sizzling stir-fry for a weekend feast. At least I would not need to go downstairs now. I hurried to the balcony and dumped the bag of still, flopping, jumping live shrimp into a plastic basin in the living room. Xiaoxi, who had been listlessly sprawled on the couch, heard the seafood flopping, and her eyes lit up at once. A faint purple gleam flickered in their depths. What happened next made my scalp prickle, yet I could not look away. She did not pounce on them and gnaw wildly like some beast. Instead, the two pink-purple tentacles behind her shot out like lightning, precisely wrapping around a large, wriggling prawn. The suckers made a soft pop, then gave a slight twist. The prawn's hard shell was peeled off perfectly in one piece. Not even a single feeler broke. Then, the snowy white, translucent prawn meat was placed directly into her little cherry-like mouth by her tentacles. No, dirty water splashed everywhere. She did not even make a sound while chewing. She ate terrifyingly fast, yet with the elegance of an apex predator of the deep. In less than 3 minutes, she had devoured more than half the container of prawns. A neat stack of translucent empty shells sat beside her. I sat on the couch, clutching my instant noodle fork, completely stunned. Just then, Xiaoxi stopped. In the basin remained one final oyster, also the largest and plumpest one. She smoothly pried open its hard shell with her tentacles and picked out the plumpest oyster meat inside. But she did not eat it herself. Instead, she carefully cradled it in her palms, then crawled on her knees to my side, as if presenting an offering. Master. She looked up. Her big eyes, glistening with tears, stared at me, filled with longing. This one is the biggest. It is for Master. The octopus girl held the slippery oyster to my lips, because, in the eyes of a deep-sea octopus girl, the finest prey must be offered to the clan's ruler. But raw meat instinctively repulsed me. Yet in Xiaoxi's extreme way of thinking, Master rejecting her meant she was useless trash, meant she did not deserve to live in this world, and meant she had to kill herself in atonement. That terrified me senseless. To keep her from killing herself, I swallowed the raw oyster despite myself. That instantly filled Xiaoxi with overwhelming happiness. Master ate my food, so Master belongs completely to me now. Just moments earlier, after I dumped the bag of still flopping, jumping live shrimp into the basin, Xiaoxi, who had been listlessly sprawled on the couch, heard the seafood flopping, and her eyes lit up at once. What happened next made my scalp prickle, yet I could not look away. She did not pounce on them and gnaw wildly like some beast. The tentacles behind her shot out in a flash, precisely wrapping around a large, wriggling prawn. With a slight twist, the prawn's hard shell was peeled off perfectly in one piece. Not even a single feeler broke. Then the snowy white, translucent prawn meat was placed directly into her cherry-red mouth by her tentacles. No, dirty water splashed everywhere. She did not even make a sound while chewing. She ate terrifyingly fast, yet with the elegance of an apex predator of the deep. In less than 3 minutes, she had devoured more than half the basin of prawns. A neat stack of translucent empty shells sat beside her. I sat on the couch, clutching my instant noodle fork, completely dumbfounded. Just then, Xiaoxi stopped. One final oyster remained in the basin, and it was the largest, the plumpest one of all. She effortlessly pried open its hard shell with her tentacles and picked out the plumpest oyster meat inside. But she did not eat it herself. Instead, she carefully cradled it in her palms, then crawled to my legs on both knees as if making an offering. Master. She looked up. Her big, watery eyes stared at me, filled with longing. In the deep sea, The finest prey one catches must be reserved for the most noble god. This biggest one is for master. She held that slippery, briny-smelling, raw flesh right up to my mouth. My stomach churned, and I instinctively recoiled. I do not eat raw food. You eat it. The moment I said that, something disastrous happened. With a snap, the light in Xiaoxi's eyes shattered. Her hands froze in midair, still holding the oyster. The tentacles behind her went limp, as if all strength had been drained from them. And huge tears instantly welled in her eyes. Her voice trembled heartbreakingly. Master. Does Master dislike Xiaoxi's prey? Xiaoxi is not even worthy of offering food to Master anymore. Xiaoxi is useless trash. Crying, she lowered her head in despair. The tentacle holding the oyster even began winding around her own neck. From the look of it, if I dared say one more word of refusal, she would strangle herself to death right there to atone. Hey. Do not cry. Who said I did not like it? I fucking hate seeing girls cry, especially a breathtakingly beautiful, deep-sea monster willing to die for me. My scalp prickled, and my brain shut down. I grabbed her wrist, squeezed my eyes shut, and guided by her hand, swallowed that oyster meat in one bite. Gulp. It was not as disgusting as I imagined. Instead, it carried a faint salty sweetness of the sea. It is good, really good. There, happy now, unbelievable. The instant I swallowed, Xiaoxi's tears stopped at once. The tentacles drooping on the floor sprang upright in a flash. She threw herself into my arms, like a kitten that had finally gotten the world's most expensive treat. Her burning cheek rubbed desperately against my neck. She was so happy her voice turned soft and syrupy. Master ate the food Xiaoxi gave him. Xiaoxi is so happy. From now on, Xiaoxi will catch Master the freshest prey every day. I slumped on the couch, dead inside, feeling her soft body and slick, cool tentacles wrapped tightly around me. Whatever boundaries I had as a human were completely shattered. Still, enjoyable as it was, a very serious problem remained. She had eaten elegantly while peeling prawns and opening oysters, but her hair and collarbone had inevitably been smeared with briny stink and slime. And after all the cold sweat she had broken out in last night, she now smelled like a walking seafood market. You are full now, right? I sighed, pointing at the shabby bathroom, barely 30 square feet. Go take a shower. Xiaoxi looked where I pointed. The instant she saw the shower head and faucet, her pitch-black eyes flashed with extreme terror and resistance. It was a deep-sea monster's most primal reaction to fresh water. Now, Xiaoxi smelled deliciously of lemon from every single tentacle. Looking at this deep-sea girl in my arms, her long hair dripping wet, as she nuzzled my palm nonstop for affection, I sighed fondly. 10 minutes earlier, she had been terrified of warm water, flailing all 8 tentacles wildly around the bathroom, and nearly drowning me. But one 9.9 yuan bottle of lemon, body wash, and some gentle petting turned her into a total clingy little thing. Just moments ago. Go take a shower. If you went outside now, people could tell you are seafood from 30 feet away. Xiaoxi shuffled into the bathroom, looking aggrieved. When she stared at the rusty showerhead, the tentacles behind her, like a startled cat's tail, instantly curled behind her back. I thought she did not know how to use it. So, I went in and casually turned on the faucet. Warm tap water burst out with a rush. I had no idea that Xiaoxi, accustomed to the freezing deep sea, would find warm tap water as terrifying as an attack by an unidentified flying object. Xiaoxi shrieked as if she had been electrocuted. Her survival instincts activated at once. With a squelch, 8 huge pinkish-purple jelly-like tentacles sprang straight out of her back. This time, she was not going berserk. She was simply scared senseless. Her 8 tentacles flailed like startled, oversized noodles, thrashed wildly round the 3-square-meter bathroom. Crash, bang. A plastic cup went flying. A shampoo bottle slammed into the wall. She wrapped the shower hose tightly in her tentacles. The stream sprayed everywhere like a crazed fountain. Wah, master, save me. This water is so strange. Xiaoxi is going to get all wrinkly. Like a helpless kitten, she cowered in the corner, clutching her head. At this rate, she would flood the apartment downstairs. I snatched up the 9.9 yuan bottle of lemon body wash, shipping included. Braving the spray, I pulled her into my arms. Look at me. Do not be afraid. I used my body to shield her from the water, working up a handful of yellow foam, then grabbing the tentacle wrapped around the showerhead. It was soft and cool. The artificial lemon scent instantly covered the seafood smell. The foam-covered tentacle suddenly went rigid. The next second, it went limp like a noodle. It draped itself ingratiatingly over my shoulder. I gently stroked those pinkish-purple tentacles with both hands. Moments ago, they had been strong enough to nearly tear the water pipes apart. Now they were so docile, they seemed boneless. Looking closely, the tiny suckers beneath the tentacles were crystal clear. Under my fingers, they actually made faint little smacking sounds, as if they were happily blowing tiny bubbles. The tentacles, taut with fear, their pinkish-purple color gleaming, were bathed in warm water and foam on my hands, and finally relaxed completely. They had the springy bounce of jelly. One tiny tentacle tip even quietly crept up my wrist, gently hooking around my little finger, as if timidly asking for affection. I was a single guy who had lived alone for over half a year. Yet here I was, washing a deep-sea monster's tentacles. 10 minutes later, I collapsed on the tiles like a drowned rat gasping for air. Xiaoxi had retracted her tentacles and returned to being that delicate, breathtakingly beautiful girl. She sat there obediently. Her deathly pale skin now glowed with health. She smelled of cheap lemon from head to toe. She looked up at me, her eyes sparkling like stars. "Master." Her voice was sweet and soft. She lovingly cradled the right hand that had washed her. She pressed her flushed cheek into my palm and nuzzled it dependently. Now every one of Xiaoxi's tentacles smells deliciously of lemon. She pressed her damp forehead against my chest. Her voice was soft enough to melt a heart. For the rest of Xiaoxi's life, Xiaoxi will catch the tastiest prawns for Master. Xiaoxi will always stay close to Master. Never, ever, under a school desk, hold a deep-sea octopus girl's hand, especially when she is jealous. The class beauty merely turned around and asked me to pick up her eraser. The tentacle girl who had secretly followed me to school, hidden in my shadow, instantly went berserk. She raised a soft pink tentacle, ready to whip her. Terrified, I grabbed that tentacle tightly. Instead of getting angrier, that jealous little thing happily wrapped herself around my wrist. Master actually did all that for Xiaoxi. Master secretly held Xiaoxi's hand beneath the desk, right in front of the whole class. Just moments ago, I thought locking Xiaoxi at home would let me catch my breath at school, but I was still far too naive. I had badly underestimated a clingy deep-sea creature. The moment I entered the classroom, the formerly noisy class fell utterly silent. The second I reached my seat, Zhang Meng, the school bully who used to shake me down every day, sprang up as though his chair had a spring in it. His usual arrogant face, the instant he saw me, forced out a fawning smile that looked worse than crying. "Brother Zhao, you are here. Please, have a seat." Bowing and scraping, Zhang Meng pulled out a pack of tissues. He polished my chair until it gleamed. He did not dare raise his head once. The whole class stared at me as if I were an alien. No one knew why the 6-foot athletic guy had lost his mind. Only I knew. Xiaoxi must have paid Zhang Meng a midnight visit. He probably sees me as the Grim Reaper's brother-in-law now. I sat down to spite myself. First period was math. The balding teacher tapped away as he wrote on the blackboard. The cold air conditioning made everyone drowsy. Suddenly, I felt an extremely familiar, wet, cool, slippery sensation around my ankle. My heart lurched. The ballpoint pen in my hand clattered onto the desk. Stiffly, I lowered my head and looked into the shadow beneath my desk. Holy crap! A pinkish-purple, jelly-like, yet powerfully springy tentacle was slimely creeping up the leg of my school uniform pants. It finally wrapped tightly around my calf. Its suckers even affectionately smacked softly against my skin. Xiaoxi had never stayed at the apartment. This giant deep-sea octopus had liquefied herself and hidden in my shadow, then brazenly followed me to school. As I sweated buckets, trying to figure out how to stuff this deadly tentacle back, Linzu, the class beauty seated in front of me, suddenly turned around. She had accidentally knocked down an eraser, and it rolled right to my feet. "Zhao Yuan, could you pick up my eraser?" Linzu lowered her voice and gave me a sweet smile. Her delicate fragrance drifted over. Normally, I would have blushed and quickly picked it up, but to the jealous little thing beneath my desk, that scent was the most provocative poison imaginable. I clearly felt the tentacle wrapped around my calf go ramrod straight with rage. The next second, within the shadow beneath the desk, Xiaoxi's breathtaking but puffed-up face appeared. In those bright black eyes was bitter resentment and hostility towards some shameless girl trying to steal her master. Whoosh! That once affectionate jelly tentacle instantly turned into an angry little whip and shot out from beneath the desk. It was about to lash hard across Linzu's fair hand. If that hit the class beauty's hand, it would swell up like a balloon. "Do not move." I was so terrified my eyes nearly popped out. I clamped my legs together, My left hand shot beneath the desk like lightning and seized the tentacle only 2 inches away from Linzu. Zhao Yuan, what is wrong? My sudden low shout startled Linzu. The teacher at the podium also stopped writing. He frowned toward me. What is going on back there? Why are you making such a fuss? More than 40 pairs of eyes turned toward me at once. Cold sweat streamed down me like a waterfall. My left hand was still beneath the desk, locked in a tug-of-war with that furious tentacle. The tentacle writhed wildly in my grip, like a child throwing a tantrum. It desperately tried to break free and teach that fake innocent girl up front a lesson. My leg cramped. My face turned red from holding it in. Through gritted teeth, I made up an excuse. It hurt so much I could not hold it in. Sorry, sir. If you have a cramp, stand up and stretch. Do not disrupt the class. The teacher rolled his eyes at me impatiently. Linzu picked up the eraser herself and asked softly, Are you okay? Do you want to go to the infirmary? No. Just pay attention in class. I forced a smile uglier than a sob. I desperately signaled for her to turn around. Once Linzu turned back around, and the class finally looked away, I breathed a sigh of relief. But beneath the desk, Xiaoxi stopped struggling. Instead, something extremely strange happened. Within the shadows, Xiaoxi's stunning face drew close. She looked at me tightly gripping her hand. The hostility and resentment in her eyes instantly turned into glittering delight and feverish adoration. In her mind, I was not stopping her from causing trouble at all. She tilted her head up and tenderly, intimately wrapped a tentacle around my wrist. Soft suckers gently latched onto my palm. Her sickly sweet gaze seemed to say, Master did not want Xiaoxi looking at other females. So, right before the whole class, he secretly held Xiaoxi's hand tightly beneath the desk. Happily, she ran her tongue over her lips. She wore a satisfied smile so sweet it was unsettling. I slumped in my chair, letting that icy tentacle, hidden in the darkness, brazenly coil around my wrist ever tighter. What do you do when a school bully keeps playing dirty on the basketball court? Do not panic. My shadow hides an overpowered maniac determined to protect her master. When a basketball came flying at my face, I did not even raise a hand. A transparent tentacle instantly sprang from my shadow and forced a clean three-pointer from me. Watching the bully, who had been so arrogant moments ago, get tripped by an invisible tentacle and face-plant into the ground, while his lackey had his shorts yanked down in public, revealing bright red underwear. I swallowed hard. This cheat mode is ridiculously awesome. Just moments ago, when the bell rang after third period, I wanted to die. I sat frozen in my chair, clearly feeling through my uniform pants. That slick pinkish-purple little tentacle, coiling round and round like a clingy little snake, around my calf. That giant deep-sea octopus had actually liquefied herself and hidden in my shadow through an entire morning of classes. Fourth period was physical education. The blazing sun was hot enough to melt asphalt. I thought a deep-sea creature like Xiaoxi would not survive sunlight. I could not have been more wrong. She was far too clever for that. She blended perfectly into my shadow. As long as I had a shadow, she had an absolutely safe parasol. Gather up. Boys, half-court game. School bully Zhang Meng was absent today. Qiang, another class troublemaker, and the sports rep, thought that made him the boss. Zhao Yuan, get your ass over here and make up the numbers. With malicious intent, he hurled a hard bounce pass, sending the basketball at my face like a cannonball. When the ball was less than 4 inches from my nose, there came a dull smack. A small transparent tentacle instantly sprang from my shadow. Like a net, it caught the ball and absorbed the impact, then smoothly placed it in my hands. Before I could react, the tentacle gave a powerful upward shove. I was forced to raise the ball and make an awkward shot. The basketball arced through the air, from a blind spot. That transparent tentacle, like a tiny whip, gave the ball a light flick. It forcibly changed its trajectory. Swish. Nothing but net. Three-pointer. The court fell deathly silent. Qiang was dumbfounded. Only I was drenched in cold sweat. That little menace really saw this as a game of protecting her master. Qiang led his lackeys in relentlessly surrounding and chasing me, trying to play dirty. But against such an overwhelming difference in power, their dirty tricks looked laughable as a clown act. Qiang sped in, trying to ram me with his elbow. The shadow beneath my feet shot out in an instant. An invisible little tentacle directly hooked his ankle without anyone noticing. The explosive speed he was so proud of became a joke. He face-planted hard. Even more absurdly, one lackey had just jumped up, when his baggy athletic shorts were yanked down to his ankles with a rip. His bright red underwear was on full display. sending all the girls into hysterics. Another boy rushed over, but the basketball rebounded as if it had eyes, smacking straight into his forehead. He spun twice on the spot. This was the ultimate one-sided prank. I looked down at my shadow. Xiaoxi was covering her mouth with a transparent tentacle, snickering. Another tentacle hovered over the back of Qiang's head, as if deciding whether to use this trash like a basketball. Seeing things were about to get out of hand, I used my trump card. Clutching my stomach, I dropped to one knee and pretended I was dying. Ow. My stomach hurt so bad. That move was a nuclear strike against Xiaoxi. The mischievous little terror showing off in my shadow shuddered violently. Her tentacles instantly snapped back. Then the soft, cool tip of a tentacle pressed through my uniform with utmost care and concern, against my stomach, gently rubbing it. In the shadows, Xiaoxi's eyes brimmed with anxious tears because she had failed to protect me. Quick! Get him to the school clinic. Two boys supported me as they led me away. I glanced back. Qiang lay sprawled on the ground, his face bruised and swollen. He looked at me with the aggrieved expression of someone who had seen a ghost. Everyone parted from me as if I carried the plague. Walking beneath the sun, I felt the tentacle still on my stomach, coolly and tenderly massaging it. I swallowed hard, watching people who usually look down on everyone get utterly crushed. I felt a deeply secret thrill rise within me. It seemed I had begun enjoying this invincible life of being treated like a god and worshipped as one. How thrilling is it to raise a jealous little monster with off-the-charts combat power? One moment, the landlady insulted me, and Xiaoxi furiously extended a giant tentacle from inside the wardrobe, ready to slap her head clean off with one blow. The next, after I paid her and sent her away, Xiaoxi crawled from the wardrobe like a giant ragdoll cat that had done something wrong. She knelt on the floor, tears streaming down her aggrieved face, listening to her tearfully ask why I stopped her. My heart melted. I had barely pinched her cheek and said, "You listened. Good girl." This world-destroying deep-sea weapon instantly curled up my pant leg, then sweetly buried her face in my palm and shamelessly begged for affection. Right after I took leave from work and ducked out to go home, I had not even caught my breath when someone began pounding thunderously on the security door. "Zhao Yuan, do not pretend you are dead. Open the door." The shrill voice of Annie Wang, the landlady downstairs, boomed outside like a broken gong. The other day, Xiaoxi had gone berserk because she feared water flooding the downstairs ceiling. That old battle axe had definitely come to demand answers. I was scared out of my wits. I grabbed Xiaoxi and shoved her into the battered wardrobe. "No matter what happens outside, you are absolutely not allowed to come out, or I will never want you again for as long as I live." The moment I opened the door, Annie Wang, reeking of cheap perfume, barged in like a tank. She pointed at my nose and unleashed a torrent of abuse. "You pathetic poor trash. You cannot even pay a few hundred yuan in rent, and you dare let a leak flood my apartment. If you cannot pay 500 yuan in compensation today, pack your things and get out immediately." I hunched over with an apologetic smile, about to offer her an apple to shut her up, when the corner of my eye caught the battered wardrobe. My heart nearly stopped in that instant. In Xiaoxi's blunt deep-sea way of thinking, this old woman had not only dirtied Master's ears, but also dared point at Master's nose and call him trash. Anyone who dared bully her god was asking to die. Time seemed to stretch infinitely in that moment. Through a gap beneath the wardrobe, a tentacle as thick as a python, a translucent pinkish-purple jelly tentacle glowing with an eerie violet light, hugged the shadows at the base of the wall, like a stealthy assassin, silently slithering toward Annie Wang's ankle. The tentacle's tip had no barbs, but it had already tensed into the shape of a huge palm ready to strike. If that landed squarely on Annie Wang's face, the old woman would definitely go flying. She would be embedded in the concrete wall opposite, impossible to pry out. "Annie, have an apple." I summoned the best acting of my life. With one sliding step, I put myself in front of Annie Wang. I forcibly stuffed the apple into her hand. Meanwhile, I kept my left hand behind my back and snatched downward like lightning. I clamped onto the pinkish-purple tentacle just as it was about to strike. Damn, it was so cold and slippery and absurdly strong. Caught in my grip, the tentacle thrashed like a tantrum-throwing child. It was determined to break free and slap away that old woman who would not stop yapping. Pain brought cold sweat pouring down my back, but I kept a bright smile on my face. "Please do not be angry, Annie. I will pay the 500 yuan right away." Behind my back, my thumb desperately tried to appease her, clumsily stroking the cool suction cups on the tentacle, gently rubbing them. "Please, just pull it back already. I am begging you." Then a miracle happened. The warmth of my fingertips as they rubbed it was like a nuclear-grade sedative to Xiaoxi. The giant tentacle, murderous only a second ago and ready to slap someone, suddenly froze. It instantly went limp as mud. It swayed in midair with extreme reluctance, then softly curled around my wrist instead. With a wet little squelch, it nuzzled my wrist twice like a spoiled pet, then obediently slipped back into the wardrobe. With my heart bleeding, I paid the 500 yuan. I sent Annie Wang away. The moment the door shut, I collapsed on the tiled floor like a puddle of mud. With a creak, the battered wardrobe door opened. Xiaoxi was not even wearing shoes. She crawled out on her hands and knees, like a gorgeous giant ragdoll cat that had done something wrong. She knelt pitifully at my feet. The 8 huge tentacles behind her restlessly smacked the floor. Huge tears covered her breathtakingly beautiful face. "Master, why did you give that old woman money?" Xiaoxi looked up, sobbing so hard she shook. "She insulted Master." Xiaoxi could have slapped her away with one hit. "Why did Master stop me? Did Xiaoxi do something wrong?" Looking at this little monster with the power to destroy the world, who was so upset because I had been insulted that she was nearly crying herself breathless. All the anger in my heart vanished. I realized I had not been saving myself at all just now. I had truly been risking my life to protect the landlady who had insulted me. I sighed. I reached out and pinched her cool, soft cheek. "You did nothing wrong." I looked into her dark eyes, brimming with obsession. "You listened to me in the wardrobe just now. You did not rush out and cause trouble. You were very good." The moment Xiaoxi heard the word good, her eyes lit up. Her frenzied tentacles seemed to hear heavenly music. They happily curled up my pant leg at once. She buried her face deeply in my palm. Her voice was soft and stick-a-sweet, as if her mouth were full of cotton candy. "As long as Master praises Xiaoxi, no matter how those trash outside keep yelling, Xiaoxi can endure it." I looked at this deep-sea weapon in my arms, satisfied by just a single word of praise. I gave a bitter smile. I was done for. It seemed I had truly become hopelessly accustomed to this clingy little jealous thing whose whole world was me, and who was always ready to destroy the world for me. Never get a high fever in front of a clueless, deep-sea monster. After catching a cold in the rain, I lay in bed. But when I opened my eyes, my fiercely protective Xiaoxi was crying as she raised one of her huge tentacles. She opened her mouth, about to bite it off and feed it to me as a nutritious meal. I was so terrified that I bolted upright despite being half dead. I clung tightly to her leg. "You little menace. When humans get too hot, it is called a fever. I am not dying, and I do not want to eat a seafood feast." After a summer downpour, I ran back to my apartment to save money, and got soaked to the bone. My head was spinning, and my throat felt like I had swallowed razor blades. I collapsed onto my single bed and wrapped myself up tight. "I just need some sleep. You stay put and behave." I drowsily gave Xiaoxi that instruction. Then my brain shut down completely. By human standards, it was only a bad cold. But I forgot. I was raising a clueless giant deep-sea monster. I was awakened by desperate sobbing. I felt as if I were roasting in a furnace, my entire body frighteningly hot. "Master, Master, do not die." Xiaoxi crouched beside the bed, her face soaked with tears. The 8 huge tentacles behind her frantically whipped through the air like helicopter blades. "What is wrong?" I tried to raise a hand, my voice hoarse. In her deep-sea way of thinking, a burning body meant someone was being cooked by an undersea volcano. She brought a tentacle straight to her mouth. She actually opened her little mouth, baring her sharp canine teeth, and without hesitation went for her own tentacle, ready to bite down hard. "Master's body is broken. I will trade Xiaoxi's tentacles for medicine to cure him. Xiaoxi will not mind." Oh God, stop that right now. I was going insane. Was this little menace planning to tear off her own tentacles and use them as medicinal ingredients to nurse me back to health? I did not know where I found the strength, but like a cat with its tail stepped on, I lunged off the bed. I desperately grabbed the tentacle she had nearly injured. The two of us tumbled onto the cold tile floor. Why did Master stop me? Does Master think Xiaoxi cannot help? Xiaoxi was so frantic that she broke down, tears pouring from her eyes. "Stop being ridiculous." I held tightly onto her, gasping weakly. I glared at her through bloodshot eyes. "I am not dead. This is called a fever. Humans get fevers when they overheat. Why are you biting your tentacles?" Do you want me to eat a seafood feast? A fever? Xiaoxi froze. Tears still clung to her face as she stared at me blankly. Master really does not need to eat Xiaoxi. No. I do not like the fishy smell. Every ounce of strength left my body. Leaning against the bed, I broke out in cold sweats. My temperature had definitely soared to 39.5 degrees Celsius. But then I suddenly realized that the deep-sea chill unique to her body felt 100 times better than air conditioning right now. If you really want to save me, I pressed my burning forehead against her cool arm and sighed in relief. Your body is cool. Can I lean on you for a while, like an ice pack to cool me down? The moment I said that, Xiaoxi went still. In this cramped apartment, I was leaning against her without a care, asking her to be my ice pack. For a deep-sea monster starved for affection, it was the greatest gift imaginable. An ice pack. Xiaoxi will be Master's ice pack. Her voice instantly filled with wild delight. Her 8 formerly frantic tentacles instantly became the softest ice silk quilt, silently gliding toward me. They wrapped me snugly from head to toe. That silky, refreshing chill perfectly drew away my blazing body heat. Xiaoxi held me tightly in return, her icy, beautiful cheek pressed against my chest, greedily listening to my heartbeat. Then Xiaoxi will be Master's ice pack forever. If anyone dares disturb Master's sleep now, Xiaoxi will throw them straight out. The feverish drowsiness and her extreme cold finally overwhelmed me. I could not be bothered with her nonsense, and peacefully curled up in this giant deep-sea ice pack. I closed my eyes. In this cold world, having someone who would cry with worry for you at any moment, a divine little monster with built-in cooling by your side, was truly healing. Never bring home notes scented with another girl's perfume. I only borrowed study notes from the prettiest girl in class, but my jealous little deep-sea monster went berserk on the spot. Her 8 huge tentacles instantly shredded the notes into snowflakes. I had barely scolded her when she used her tentacles to lift me into the air and gently lay me on the bed. Crying, she shouted that she would erase everyone else's scent, as she domineeringly covered my neck in frantic scent marks. I fell into total despair. There was no way I could keep going to school. After Xiaoxi forcibly held me like a living ice pack all night, my bad cold miraculously vanished. The next day, with dark circles under my eyes, I fled to school, only to face an even bigger headache. The midterm exam. As I stared helplessly at a blackboard full of math formulas, a breeze carrying a faint jasmine fragrance drifted over. Zhao Yuan, you were sick for several days. Take these notes and copy them first. Linzu, the student seated in front, turned around and handed me a thick pink notebook. She smiled so gently, like I had found a lifeline. I hurriedly accepted it with both hands. As an innocent high schooler who had been single for over a decade, holding a classmate's sweet-smelling notes still gave me a little thrill. But I did not notice at all that the instant I accepted the notebook, the pool of pitch-black shadow beneath my desk suddenly boiled violently. An airy chill raced up my pant leg. My heart skipped a beat. I quickly stomped down hard on the shadow. You little menace. These notes are my lifeline. What are you doing? Do not go crazy here. Fortunately, the shadow only churned irritably a few times. I quickly shoved the notebook into the deepest part of my backpack. But my human brain could never understand the mind of a jealous little deep-sea monster. I thought hiding it would solve everything, never realizing I had personally brought a nuclear bomb home. When I returned to my apartment that evening, Xiaoxi slipped out of the shadows like a dutiful little wife. She obediently took my backpack, then clingily threw herself into my arms. Big brother is home. Xiaoxi was very good at home. Good girl. I gave her head a perfunctory pat, my mind entirely on those study notes. Go play for now. I need to study. I went to the desk and pulled out the pink notebook. I opened to the first page. Rip. I had not even picked up a pen when the air in the apartment suddenly froze dead still. The temperature plunged by over 10 degrees in an instant. I stiffly turned around. Xiaoxi was staring fixedly at the notebook in my hand. Her little nose twitched twice. Her once pitch-black eyes were being consumed by blazing purple light at a terrifying speed. In her deep-sea way of thinking, Master's body and belongings could only carry her scent. Yet now, Master had brought home something carrying another girl's scent, and he was opening it like it was treasure. What is that? Her voice was cold as ice, laced with killing intent that made my scalp prickle. These are notes the class monitor lent me. Before I could finish, a huge pinkish-purple tentacle lashed past my ear like lightning and slammed into the desk. Bang! The notebook was sent flying into the air. Then the other 7 enormous tentacles sprang out at once, like little beasts guarding their food. They precisely snatched the notebook from midair. Rip rip. In less than a second, that thick study notebook was effortlessly torn apart by 8 huge tentacles into thumbnail-sized scraps. Pink paper scraps drifted down like snow, covering the floor. Are you insane? Looking at the scraps all over the floor, my anger flared, and I shouted at her. She lent those to me. You tore them up. What am I supposed to return? What is wrong with you? It was the first time I had ever scolded her over someone else. Normally, if I even raised my voice a little, she would already be trembling in fright. But I had forgotten. When an obsessive monster believes her, God is yelling at her over another woman. Obedience turns into a possessiveness willing to destroy itself along with everything else. Not only was Xiaoxi unafraid, she jerked up her head, purple fire blazing in her eyes. They were bloodshot. Her beautiful face was filled with overwhelming jealousy and hurt. Master scolded me for that horrible person. She stalked toward me, step by step. Her 8 huge tentacles thrashed wildly through the air, sweeping the chairs away. Never bring home notes scented with another girl's perfume. I only borrowed the class beauty study notes. But my jealous little deep-sea monster went berserk on the spot. Her 8 huge tentacles instantly shredded the notes into snowflakes. I had barely scolded her when she used her tentacles to lift me into the air and gently lay me on the bed. Crying, she screamed that she would wipe away everyone else's scent. Watching her frantically and possessively leave scent marks all over my neck, I fell into total despair. There was no way I could keep going to school. That thing has someone else's scent on it. It is disgusting. Xiaoxi got rid of it for Master. Why did Master scold me? To hell with your cleaning. Those were my classmates' notes. Terrified, I kept backing away until my back hit the wall. Is she worthy? Xiaoxi let out a piercing scream and completely lost control. Whoosh! 3 thick, icy tentacles like iron chains coiled tightly round my hands, waist, and stomach. They lifted my entire body into the air. Bang! They slammed me hard onto the single bed. Let me go. What are you doing? I struggled in terror, but the tentacles were like hydraulic presses. I was pinned firmly to the bed, unable to move at all. It was the first time she had used absolute force to restrain me. Xiaoxi climbed onto the bed and pounced onto my lap. Large tears streamed down her beautiful face, but her actions were utterly domineering. Master has been tainted by that person's scent. She sobbed as if her heart were breaking, clutching my face tightly in both hands. It is all right. Xiaoxi will clean Master right up. Every inch of you can only carry Xiaoxi's scent. Then I truly learned what force marking meant. Like a little wild beast whose territory had been taken, she marked me with her scent from head to toe. 8 huge tentacles brushed lightly across me like an octopus. Their icy suckers hurried over my neck and arms again and again, carefully coating me in slime scented with lemon body wash. I tried to shout, but she pressed her face down against my neck. She parted her small lips and went straight for my neck and collarbone, nuzzling and kissing them without restraint. A ticklish sensation instantly spread across my neck, leaving a mess of red marks behind. She rubbed her scent on me, mixed even with scorching tears, as though her life depended on it. Master is mine. No one else is allowed to touch him. As she busily left her scent behind, she muttered bitterly in my ear. Facing such overwhelming strength and deranged jealousy, how could I possibly fight back? I gave up struggling and went limp on the bed, letting her beautiful face keep nuzzling at my neck. Suddenly, it struck me as absurdly funny. I had actually naively believed I could keep this wildly possessive, jealous deep-sea monster, while borrowing notes from classmates and being a normal student, against my pitiful little social life. This little monster's jealousy utterly outclassed it. Xiaoxi. My voice was hoarse. As if possessed, I used the fingers I could barely move to stroke her messy black hair. Stop rubbing against me. I smell entirely like you now. Hearing my surrender, Xiaoxi's frantic movements abruptly stopped. She raised her head when her violet eyes saw my complete submission and the marks she had left all over my neck. They instantly blazed with ecstatic, all-consuming joy. Really? Master does not blame Xiaoxi anymore. The tentacles stopped constricting and became sticky, soothing caresses. Like a puppy that had won back its bone, she pressed her face to my chest in complete contentment. Master's entire body is finally all Xiaoxi's again. I looked at the pink scraps scattered across the floor, smelling the little monster's heavy scent all over myself, and closed my eyes in despair and resignation. Amid tonight's blizzard of paper scraps, whatever remained of my ordinary human boundaries had been ground to dust. Never take an insanely possessive, deep-sea little monster to a horror movie. A mutated lizard was slaughtering everyone on the big screen, making the audience around us scream nonstop. But the little tyrant in my home, with strength off the charts, sat beside me with utter contempt on her face. Like a Michelin-starred chef judging a roadside stall, she relentlessly complained that the movie monster was too stupid, and said biting people was far too filthy, as she leaned close and sweetly whispered in my ear that she could turn that monster to ash with a single slap. I did not know who I should feel sorry for. In the blazing summer heat above 30 degrees Celsius, I dug out a long-sleeved, high-collared school jacket, zipping it all the way to my chin, wrapping myself like an idiot headed for an Antarctic expedition. I had no choice. After Xiaoxi forcibly marked me in bed last night, my neck and collarbone were covered in red marks of every size. Anyone who did not know better would think a demoness had devoured me whole. Xiaoxi now looked like a large, well-fed ragdoll cat. All 8 of those deadly tentacles had been tucked away. She wore one of my faded oversized t-shirts, patting over barefoot, all clingy and sweet, then cooling my forehead with her icy little hands. Looking at her beautiful, innocent face, I truly accepted my fate. This jealous deep-sea creature, as long as I went along with her, and made her feel that my whole body carried her scent, would be sweetly obedient. To keep her from going stir-crazy in our 20-square-meter apartment, at midnight, I took her to the shabbiest underground cinema in the old district. It was dark as pitch, and no one stared at her. The little deep-sea monster felt perfectly safe there too. The theater's air conditioning was as cold as a morgue. There were only Xiaoxi and me, plus a young couple in the last row. Xiaoxi was a little nervous at first, clinging tightly to my arm. I set the popcorn on my lap, and quietly soothed her with a few words. Only then did she relax and rest her head on my shoulder. One of her hands secretly slipped inside my high-collared jacket, feeling the red marks she had left the night before. Only then did she sigh in satisfaction. The movie was about a giant mutated lizard devouring people. Whenever it opened its gaping jaws, the sound effects thundered through the theater, sending the girl in the back row screaming into her boyfriend's arms. I was breaking out in a cold sweat too. I clutched a handful of popcorn without daring to eat it. I turned to look at Xiaoxi, worried that she might be frightened. But damn, I had worried for absolutely nothing. In the dim flickering light, Xiaoxi stared at the screen without a trace of fear in her eyes. They were filled instead with contempt for idiots. On the big screen, the lizard bit down on a supporting actor. Blood sprayed everywhere, and intestines spilled all over the floor. Xiaoxi leaned to my ear, her breath soft and fragrant, and gave a cold, deeply scornful laugh. Master, that monster is so stupid. I froze. It bit its prey's stomach and made all the filthy stuff burst out. Is that not disgusting? Xiaoxi leaned against my shoulder, like a Michelin-starred chef sneering at a roadside stall. A small icy tentacle quietly crept up along my spine. In a sugary voice, she casually bragged, "That wastes far too much energy and splatters blood everywhere. If it were Xiaoxi, one tentacle could knock it out with a single smack. I would never let a single drop of blood splash onto Master's clothes." She gently wiped the cold sweat from my forehead. "Do not be afraid of that idiot on the screen, Master. If anything filthy dares come near Master, Xiaoxi can slap it into ash. I promise I will take care of it completely." When the movie ended, the lights came on, and the couple in the back fled as if for their lives, crying. That scared me to death. I sat in the empty theater, looking at popcorn scattered all over the floor, and suddenly felt like laughing. It was so damn absurd. Everyone else screamed at fake blood and fake flesh. They had no idea. They had just watched a movie with a world-destroying, ultimate Grim Reaper, and this absurdly powerful Reaper was now happy because I had not rejected her hug, like a little girl asking for candy. "Master, that glowing stupid monster is dead." Xiaoxi looked at me with wide, innocent eyes. "If Master has not seen enough, Xiaoxi can go catch that bully from the basketball court and toss him around the living room for Master to watch." "Shut up." I sighed, then reached out and pinched her little mouth that kept spilling dangerous words. Xiaoxi blinked in surprise. Then a flicker of wild delight flashed through her eyes. She obediently fell silent and ingratiatingly nuzzled my palm. On the empty streets at 2 in the morning, I drew a deep breath of summer night air and tightly clasped her perpetually icy little hand. Even a deep-sea little monster at the absolute peak of power could actually become as timid as a kitten. A shedding period left her face cracked and dry, her tentacles shriveled, and she hid in a corner, trembling. Under the laws of her deep sea, the weak and useless were trash, abandoned at any moment. But not only did I not abandon her, I carried her to the bed instead, feeding her shrimp paste one spoonful at a time. and using my body heat to see her through that deadly chill. When her shedding ended, she knelt before me with unwavering devotion. Master's scent has grown into my new flesh. From now on, every inch of Xiaoxi's flesh and blood belongs to Master. Ever since we held hands that night and accepted our fate, I suddenly felt completely at ease. No need to pretend I was normal. No need to put up with my landlord's attitude. To spend my life with a deep-sea monster, whose eyes held nothing but me, was pure bliss. But after only 3 days of happiness, a life-threatening interspecies crisis came crashing down on us. After school that Friday, I spent more than half my living expenses on a huge bag of live, wriggling shrimp. Normally, the instant I took out my keys, Xiaoxi would come rushing out like a puppy that smelled meat. She would eagerly help carry my things, then wait pitifully for me to feed her. But today, the apartment was pitch black and deathly still. There was none of that terrifying killing intent in the air, only the faint briny stench of dried seawater. Xiaoxi. No one answered. My heart dropped. I threw down the shrimp and frantically searched everywhere. At last, I found her in the deepest corner beneath the single bed. The sight made my heart clench painfully. In the corner beneath the bed, a translucent pink, jelly-like web of mucus had formed. Xiaoxi was curled up deep inside it tightly, huddled into a ball and shaking like a leaf. Her once flawless face, white enough to glow, now looked like exquisite porcelain drained of all moisture, covered in delicate, brittle cracks. Her 8 proud, massive tentacles could not extend at all. They all hung limp, curled up behind her. She was so weak that even her breaths came in fits and starts, like a breathtaking mermaid about to dry to death. Xiaoxi, what is wrong? Terrified, I dropped straight to the floor and reached in to pull her out. Do not touch me, Master. Please, do not look at Xiaoxi. She recoiled as if electrocuted, covering her cracked face tightly. Her voice was so hoarse it broke my heart. Her tearful voice, so humble it seemed to sink into the dirt. Xiaoxi is broken. Xiaoxi has become ugly. I cannot even bring out a single tentacle. Xiaoxi is useless now. Please do not throw Xiaoxi away, Master. Listening to her incoherent, tearful cries, I understood at once. The deep sea follows the law of the strong devouring the weak. Any creature entering its vulnerable shedding period became food for its own kind, trash to be abandoned at any moment. By her monster's logic, her god stood high above everyone else. She was terrified. She feared I would see her like this, too weak even to crush an ant, a helpless good-for-nothing, and cast her out in disgust. Watching her cower in the corner, trembling miserably, something in my chest twisted painfully. I had only ever seen her arrogant and overbearing, crazily swatting aside anything and anyone for my sake. I had never seen her this pitiful. Throw you away, my ass. Get out here. Ignoring her struggles, I reached beneath the bed, grabbed her arm, and forcibly carried her out of the darkness. I gently set her on my bed. Frightened, she buried her head tightly between her knees, tears pattering down. I turned and ran into the bathroom, filled a basin with warm water, and washed a towel clean. Then I sat down beside the bed and pulled her firmly into my arms without another word. I deliberately softened my voice. Does it hurt? If it hurts, bite me. Then, little by little, I carefully wiped away the dried traces on her face and body. Xiaoxi went rigid in my arms. She even forgot to cry. Through the gaps in her fingers, her pure black eyes stared straight at me, filled with incomprehensible shock. In her mind, she had become a useless burden. Yet her god had not abandoned her. Instead, he pulled her into his arms, using hands warm with body heat to gently clean her wounds bit by bit. Master, why? She murmured blankly. Enough with the questions. You are always talking about fighting and killing, but now you are scared like a kitten. I shot her an annoyed glare, but my hands were gentle, afraid I might break her. Over the following weekend, I practically became her full-time caregiver. She was too weak to swallow a whole shrimp, so I used a cleaver to mince the shrimp into paste and fed it to her 1 spoonful at a time. That little deep-sea monster, unmatched in combat, could be scared like a kitten too. One shedding period left her face cracked, her tentacles shriveled as she hid in a corner and trembled under her deep-sea loss. The weak and useless were trash, abandoned at any moment. But not only did I not throw her away, I carried her onto the bed instead, feeding her shrimp paste mouthful by mouthful, and using my body heat to see her through that deadly chill. When the shedding ended, she knelt before me with absolute devotion. Master's scent has grown into my new flesh. From now on, every inch of Xiaoxi's flesh and blood belongs to Master. She was too weak to swallow a whole shrimp, so I used a cleaver to mince the shrimp into paste and fed it to her one spoonful at a time. During the shedding, her whole body was ice cold and shivering. I pulled out every blanket and wrapped her up like a bundle. At night, I did not even take off my clothes. I climbed straight into bed and held her tight like a human furnace, using my body heat to fight her deadly chill. I held her like that for days and nights. By Sunday evening, that deadly shedding period finally ended. When the last piece of old skin fell away, Xiaoxi looked like an enchantress reborn from the flames. Her new skin was cool and silky smooth, glowing with a jade-like sheen. Rip! 8 pink-purple tentacles, thicker and more terrifying than before, unfurled from her back in a powerful, expansive stretch. Their barbs gleamed with a deadly cold light. Her strength had fully returned, and she was even more unstoppable than before. But she did not wave her tentacles. She quietly knelt before me on both knees. Like the most devout believer, she gently cradled my face, which was bloodshot from staying awake all night. Her gaze now held a bone-deep devotion. A devotion so absolute she would never betray me, even if her soul were crushed. When Xiaoxi was at her most useless and ugly, Master did not abandon me. Master even gave Xiaoxi warmth. She pressed her forehead tightly against my chest, her voice sweet enough to drive anyone mad, as if swearing the most binding oath. Master's scent has completely grown into Xiaoxi's new flesh. From now on, Xiaoxi's life and every inch of her, flesh and blood, all belong to Master. Even if Master told Xiaoxi to jump from here right now, Xiaoxi would not so much as frown, listening to her devoted declaration. For once, I did not get chills down my spine. I sighed calmly, wrapping an arm around her slim, soft waist, and resting my chin on her cool shoulder. I breathed in the scent of my cheap body wash on her. Enough with all this talk about dying. I yawned lazily and patted her back. Now that you are back at full strength, go clean up the shrimp shells all over the kitchen and mop the floor while you are at it. After taking care of you these past 2 days, there is barely room to walk in here. Xiaoxi froze for a moment, then overwhelming, ecstatic joy burst from her eyes. She let out a delighted little laugh. Her 8 terrifying tentacles swayed happily through the air. She instantly transformed into the ultimate maid. Yes, Master. Xiaoxi will clean Master's home until it sparkles. Sunset shone into the apartment, our shadows intertwined. I could no longer tell whether her desperate devotion had bound me, or whether my small bit of compassion had this calamity-class deep-sea monster completely wrapped around my finger. But one thing was clear. For the rest of our lives, the two of us were firmly bound to this crazy yet sweet daily life. We would never be apart again. What is it like having a giant deep-sea monster as your live-in maid? It is pure bliss. Early one morning, just after I got up, I saw her directing 8 massive tentacles strong enough to flip cars. As they swept, scrubbed tiles, and folded clothes all over the living room, she proudly puffed out her little chest and asked if she was better than a robot vacuum. I immediately gave her a thumbs up. This was no world-ending calamity. She was a turbocharged, fully automatic super housekeeping machine. The next morning, I stretched as I got out of bed, when my foot suddenly slipped. With a yelp, I crashed flat on my back. Brother, are you okay? Xiaoxi rushed in like the wind and helped me up. Sitting on the floor, I rubbed my sore butt. Then I looked up. My jaw practically hit the gleaming tiles. Was this really my rundown apartment that used to look like a doghouse? Every mold stain in the corners was gone. The windows were so clean, the glass looked invisible. The seafood stench had been replaced by fresh lemon body wash. I leaned against the doorframe, completely dumbfounded. The sight was more surreal than an anim. That dark purple tentacle that could usually flip a car with ease was now meekly wrapped around an old broom, swishing noisily round the living room. As it swept, beside it, a thinner tentacle gripped a rag and scrubbed the tiles furiously. A third held a feather duster, poking at cobwebs on the ceiling. 2 more tentacles deftly took the clothes from the sofa and folded them into neat little squares. Xiaoxi stood in the center of the living room, hands on her slim waist. She hummed a cheerful tune, like a general commanding an army. All 8 huge tentacles danced up and down. She was practically a turbocharged, fully automatic super housekeeping machine. Xiaoxi cleaned away all the dirty things. Brother, is Xiaoxi better than a robot vacuum? She proudly puffed out her little chest. Her tentacles wiggled happily like seaweed in a dance. You are amazing. You are the best housekeeper there is. I generously gave her a thumbs up. At the praise, her little face flushed red. Pink bubbles of happiness practically floated above her head. Growl. My stomach rumbled. I took her into the sparkling kitchen. Come on, my little hero. Brother will cook you a fried egg himself today. Xiaoxi leaned curiously over the counter, staring at the raw egg in my hand. Brother, can you eat this round little stone too? It is called an egg. I want to help too. Xiaoxi eagerly raised her hand. This girl was desperate to prove herself now. If I did not let her do something, she would probably think she could not do anything right again. All right, you can crack the egg for me. I handed her an egg. Tap it lightly against the rim of the pan. I added uneasily. Do not use too much force. Before I finished speaking, crack. Her pale, delicate fingers, strong enough to crush steel rebar, tightened by only a millimeter, and the fragile egg burst in her hand. Bright yellow egg splattered all over her face. A few drops even landed on the tip of my nose. The kitchen fell silent. Xiaoxi stood frozen, holding up egg-covered hands. Half an eggshell clung to her face. She looked like a wooden doll, frozen in place. 2 seconds later, her eyes suddenly reddened. Tears pooled in them. Her mouth crumpled, and she was about to cry. Xiaoxi is so stupid. I crushed brother's stone. Ha! Seeing her ridiculous, aggrieved state, I laughed until my stomach hurt. I quickly grabbed a tissue and wiped her face. It is okay. Eggs are supposed to be cracked. You just made it happen with brute strength. After breakfast, Xiaoxi had snapped the mop while cleaning too enthusiastically, so I had to buy a new one at the supermarket. Xiaoxi wants to come too. I promised to behave and not cause trouble. She wrapped herself around my leg and pleaded pitifully. I made her promise 3 things. Keep her tentacles hidden, hold my hand, and not lose her temper for no reason. Then I put a sun protective jacket and sun hat on her. Then I took her outside. The sun was bright. Xiaoxi was like a little country bumpkin visiting the city for the first time. A wildflower, a butterfly, everything fascinated her. She skipped along happily. Who would have guessed the sweet girl next door was a legendary being capable of overturning the sea? As we passed the neighborhood square, a chubby 4 or 5-year-old suddenly burst into tears. The red balloon in his hand had flown up and gotten stuck high in a huge banyan tree. His grandmother could not reach it with a bamboo pole and paced in circles anxiously. Xiaoxi curiously tugged my sleeve. Brother, why is that tiny human's eyes leaking water? Is he hurt? His favorite toy flew into the tree, so he is sad. I explained patiently. Xiaoxi's big eyes darted around. Then she tugged me excitedly, lowering her voice as if sharing a huge secret. Brother, Xiaoxi can get his red balloon down for him. I will do a good deed. Will you reward me with a head pat? Before I could say, do not be rash, Xiaoxi had already pulled me behind a huge billboard. Out of everyone's sight. Whoosh, an incredibly thin tentacle, no thicker than a noodle, and almost completely transparent, shot silently from behind Xiaoxi. It was more nimble than a magician's hand. It zipped up the trunk to the top of the tree. It gently curled around the balloon string. With a light tug, the transparent tentacle swung like a playground swing, lowering the red balloon from the tree. It dropped perfectly into the chubby boy's hands. Tears still clung to the boy's face, but he was stunned. His grandmother was stunned too. Oh my, it is a miracle. The chubby boy broke into a smile, clapping and shouting. Mr. Tree gave my balloon back. Thank you, Grandpa Tree. Behind the billboard, Xiaoxi had already withdrawn her tentacle. She tilted up her head, her big eyes sparkling as she stared at me. Her face practically screamed, praise me. She looked as proud as a kitten that had caught a mouse. Look, brother. Xiaoxi did not hurt anyone. I even did a really good deed. Seeing the little boy smile through his tears. Then the smug female sea monster before me. All worries completely vanished. I vigorously yet gently ruffled her head twice through her sun hat. Our Xiaoxi is the kindest person in the whole world. She happily threw herself into my arms, giggling. On our way home, I carried the new mop and held her hand tightly. She had a lollipop in her mouth, traded for at the supermarket with bottle caps. A strawberry one. She swung my hand as we walked in the sunshine, humming a happy tune. It turns out living with a monster capable of destroying the world, even a clingy one, can be like a fairy tale. Chaotic, yet full of sunshine. I quietly tightened my grip on her soft little hand. This time, I decided that even if the sky came crashing down, I would keep holding this silly female sea monster's hand and live this life with her. Master. It bumped me with its head. Is it challenging me to a duel? Should I throw it out? Looking at the beautiful girl before me, her hands raised in the air too scared to move, her gorgeous eyes filled with panic, I nearly burst out laughing. Come on. That little orange kitten is just cuddling up to you and rubbing against your leg. Who would have thought that a deep-sea monster that fought every day and ate living creatures in the ocean would come to the human world? only to be completely conquered by a warm, soft little ball of fluff. I quietly tightened my grip on her soft little hand. At that moment, I finally accepted my fate. From now on, even if the sky comes crashing down, I will keep holding this silly female sea monster's hand and carry on with this wonderfully chaotic life. Just as we reached our shabby apartment building, a very faint meow suddenly came from the nearby bushes. Before I could say anything, like radar, Xiaoxi's ears pricked straight up. At once, like a mother hen protecting her chicks, she spread her arms and firmly shielded me. Her little face was taut, as if facing a deadly enemy. Be careful, brother. There is an unidentified creature in the bushes. It could be a bad guy trying to ambush you. I nearly burst out laughing. What bad guy would attack in broad daylight? I parted the bushes and looked. A filthy little orange kitten lay beneath the broad leaves. It was barely a month old and skinny as a rake, trembling as it meowed at us. Oh my, a lost little kitten. My heart melted. I reached out and stroked it. The little orange kitten rubbed against my palm, then gave it a lick with its tiny tongue. Xiaoxi was utterly fascinated. There was nothing so tiny in the deep sea, with for short legs and all that fur. She crouched beside it, extending a pale, delicate finger, wanting to poke it, but not daring to. She was completely amazed. Brother, what is this orange caterpillar? It licked you just now. Was it trying to eat you? It is called a kitten. Even starving, it would not eat people. Laughing, I scooped up the little thing. Xiaoxi leaned in curiously for a closer look. Suddenly, the little orange kitten sneezed loudly. It sprayed Xiaoxi's face with tiny droplets. In the past, any creature that dared spit at her would have been obliterated. But today, this mighty being capable of overturning the sea did not get angry. Instead, like a startled preschooler, she fell to the floor with a yelp, covered her face, and gasped. It can spray water too. Watching those two adorable goofballs, one big and one small, I could not stop grinning. Cradling the kitten, I headed home. When we got home, the little orange kitten became the star of the house. After eating some softened sausage, the kitten perked up. It wandered over the tiled floor, until it finally set its sights on Xiaoxi. It toddled over to Xiaoxi's feet, and boldly used its fluffy little head to rub against her bare calf. Meow. Xiaoxi went stiff as a statue. She held both hands in the air, too afraid to move. Her big eyes were full of panic. Brother. It bumped me with its head. Is it trying to duel me? Should Xiaoxi throw it out? It is just being affectionate with you. That means it likes you. Barely holding back my laughter, I teased her. Try petting its back. As if facing a great enemy. Xiaoxi took a deep breath, then tremblingly reached out and stroked the kitten's back. In that instant, her eyes lit up like stars. Brother, it is so soft. Softer than the softest jellyfish in the sea. And it is warm too. The kitten was so comfortable it rolled onto its back, showing its little belly as it purred. Xiaoxi was having the time of her life. She simply sat on the floor, tickling its belly and giggling. Then something unexpected happened. Xiaoxi got too excited, and a nearly invisible tentacle slipped out through a gap in her clothes, no thicker than a chopstick. To the cat, that wiggling thing in midair was the ultimate toy. Meow. The little orange kitten sprang up, stretching out its furry paws as it pounced at the little tentacle. Xiaoxi jumped in fright. Tentacles were deadly weapons. But when the kitten's soft paw pads hugged the tentacle, and its toothless little mouth gently nibbled it, Xiaoxi froze completely. Brother, it is biting my tentacle. Not only was she not angry, she cried out in amazement instead. But it does not hurt at all. It tickles, like little fish nibbling your fingers. Ha ha, it thinks you are a giant toy. I laughed until tears nearly came to my eyes. For the next half hour, an absurd battle played out in the living room. The deep-sea monster who could overturn the ocean sat cross-legged on the floor, using her tentacle as an oversized cat teaser. The transparent little tentacle bobbed up and down in the air, while the orange kitten leaped wildly like a bouncy fur ball. You cannot catch me. Xiaoxi smugly lifted her tentacle, and the kitten missed, tumbling head over heels. It made Xiaoxi clap and laugh. Her clear laughter echoed through the room. Worn out from playing, the orange kitten slept on its back in a showbox, its little belly rising and falling. Xiaoxi was sweaty from playing too. She quietly walked over to the sofa and obediently sat beside me. She looked up, gazing at the yellowed bulb as she suddenly murmured. Back in the sea, Xiaoxi had to fight every day and eat filthy living things. Xiaoxi was not happy at all. She turned and looked at me seriously, her eyes sparkling. But now Xiaoxi has brother, a warm home, sweet lollipops, and now, A fluffy little toy too. She smiled sweetly, her face full of peace and happiness. Xiaoxi thinks, being with brother in the human world is the happiest thing in the whole world. Hearing that silly yet utterly sincere confession, the last trace of wariness in my heart melted away completely like ice cream in the sun. You silly girl. Smiling, I ruffled her hair. Outside, the sun was setting. Golden afterglow spilled into the cramped rental apartment. The kitten in the showbox was purring. The stunning female sea monster beside me leaned against my shoulder, happily humming a tune.